Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. So my name is Efrem Castelnuovo. I'm the PhD program coordinator for for our PhD program here in Padua, offered by the Department of Economics and Management. And I would like to welcome you to this presentation. What we're gonna do today is to talk about interesting stuff that happens in the real world. And I'm a macro guy, an empirical macro guy, so I like to check time series. So this is the series of acts of piracy in the world in a limited time span from 94 to 2008. And I want you to notice a couple of things. First, there was an upward trend in these realizations from 94 to 2000, then a little bit of a stabilization period, and then notice the fact that from 2003 to 2006, we managed as a world to invert the trend, right? And so there was this decline, steep decline in these acts of piracy. And as economists, I guess we want to understand why this happened, because of the fact that well, it's very important to have a regular flow of transportation of goods in the world. No? And so what's the policy intervention that kind of managed to conquest, if you want, to reduce substantially these acts of piracy? And I was curious about that, and so I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that in 2003, the Disney enterprise launched the Pirates of the Caribbean, meaning that, of course, this managed to reduce these acts of piracy, and we have to thank Johnny Depp very much for this intervention. You know, we are better thanks to Johnny Depp. Okay. Now, there's a little bit of a problem here in this analysis because it's a spurious correlation. And it's a spurious correlation because of the fact that as an economist, I haven't really managed to develop a theory to understanding why certain interventions might lead to certain consequences. And I haven't really processed the data correctly, right? You know, I was kind of confounding correlations with causality, if you want. Apart from the fact that example was a bit of a ridiculous example, but there's a variety of, it's typical, in fact, in economics, I would say, to have problems of endogeneity that are difficult to end. Think about an example which is close to what I do, macroeconomics, the fiscal spending multiplier. We would love to know what we produce if we spend €1 or $1 publicly, you know, if public spending goes up by $1. And the problem is that G can go up, so public spending can go up because of the fact that we have resources ready, or G can generate resources. So you see the endogeneity issue that is present here, okay? It's very difficult to establish causality. Thanks God, we got theoretical models that suggest what can happen, as well as we got solutions when we go to the data. Very famously, Barber and Bramey developed this idea of exploiting war-related events fought by the US military corps in order to understand fiscal multipliers in the US. Here, G is related to military spending. It's not responding to the US business cycle, but it's possibly causing the business cycle. You spend more in military-related elements, and you're generating salaries, and you're generating returns from capital that spill over in the entire economy. So that's one way to understand causality, if you want. An example about management, working from home. We've been talking about that since the pandemic. Actually, Nick Bloom was talking about that even before that. And one question is, does it pay off? Does it increase productivity or decrease productivity of a firm? It's kind of difficult to understand, to assess, to quantify, to isolate the effect of working from home per se, as opposed to a variety of other confounders, okay? But people were pretty clever, like, again, Nick Bloom in Stanford came up with this idea of lotteries. And so if you can randomly allocate people working in a company to the working from home program, as opposed to keep them in the firm, you can then compare their productivity and understand if there's a gain or not. And it might depend, of course, on the understudy, but there's gains in productivity regarding the reality studied by Bloom that range from 13% to 22%. So it might pay off to do that with all the consequences about traffic, pollution, and so on and so forth when it comes to working from home. So I think it's very important to establish causality like that. Now, I think our PhD program wants to equip you with different abilities if you want. The ability of developing rigorous theoretical frameworks to uncover important mechanisms that might drive economic outcomes, might lead to economic outcomes. The ability of conducting credible empirical analysis, so going to the data seriously in order to understand what the data are saying regarding certain phenomena, okay? And the ability of interacting, having different areas interact, micro and macro areas interact, so having different perspectives regarding a single object. Once again, linking data to theory, okay? So to me, if you go for our PhD program, you should actually expect to gain at the very least three things: the ability to think critically about causes and effect, the ability to analyze and influence real-world economic decisions, and this comes the ability of suggesting to policymakers policies that are efficient or optimal along certain dimensions. And if you want the ability, the possibility of finding nice jobs in the academia, policy, and industry. Here, I anticipate we have two witnesses of our PhD program, two former PhD students, Jessica and Elisa, and they provide us with their view about our program and what that meant to them at the end of this presentation. Okay? Now, what are the features of our PhD program? It's a four-year program with 6 fully funded positions. Okay? One position is a team-specific position about the way in which we think the welfare state under political constraints in a world which is rapidly changing. And this is actually a position sponsored, financially supported by an ERC consolidator granted a prestigious colleague of ours, Alessia Russo, got very recently. There's also the possibility of applying for one position supported by the Galilean School of Higher Education, which is based here in Padua. It's a position that is associated with this school. This school is a school of excellence that combines traditional university teaching with specialized in-house courses, and they offer a lot to PhD students who can make it there: free accommodation and canteen, additional funding for conducting research. It's very, very competitive, and this position is a position that you compete for, facing the competition of applicants in the social sciences area, not just economics. Okay, but you can apply for it if you want to, as well as you can elect to be considered for the ERC-related position above when you send your application. We'll talk about the application later. Program features two curricula, economics and management. Let me say straight away what they have in common. They have in common a commitment, which is of training you, PhD students, to reach your full potential and succeed in the international job market. It's very important to prepare you to go to the market in the best possible shape. We'll talk later about the market, but we want to be very international. We are very international oriented, and so be ready for this challenge if you can here. Now, I talked about the fact that we have a 4-year program. The first year is the classic standard year in which we have courses and exams. Courses and exams are offered and required when it comes to exam from November to May. Then there's a summer paper that you're required to write during summer, May to September. And then you choose your supervisors in order to start the following period, which is the research period. Okay. Let me talk about the courses we have. We have economics and we have management. In economics, that's the structure that we offer. We have 3 terms. The first term features micro, macro, and game theory, and it's offered by the University of Verona, which is a close-by city and university. Okay, so you go there, you attend these courses that form the basis that you need to have when you come here, Padua, for a second and third term. Second term, econometrics, micro, and macro, and then a number of courses you can choose from in order to kind of specialize and advance along certain dimensions that are in line with your preferences. When it comes to management, All courses are offered by our department, the Department of Economics and Management, University of Padua. And we have a first term which covers econometrics for management, corporate governance, and research methods. Here I want to stress the fact that this is very much data oriented. So the credibility in going to the data and analyzing data credibly, correctly, is actually prominent. It's actually very important in this management territory, as well as in economics, of course. Second term, organization theories, financial accounting, and strategic management. Third term, once again, many courses you can choose from, advanced topics in management, innovation management, tools in accounting and finance, and microeconometrics. Once again, to sort of reiterate the fact that data analysis is absolutely crucial here. Now, I talked about the first year. So we have courses and exams, the summer paper, and then the choice of the supervisors. But then we have the following years in which a bunch of things happen. Okay. There's this research time. You start writing, thinking, and elaborating and writing your dissertation. Okay? And the development of it is actually undergone with mentoring. So you got a main supervisor and an advisor kind of helping you develop your research ideas. You can attend courses on all topics, and I'll spend a word later about the courses we organize. There's extra courses that we organize that are courses covering state-of-the-art elements that are attended by PhD students as well as faculty here, more senior faculty if you want. Visiting abroad, you're very much invited to go abroad and visit a prestigious institution where researchers can help you develop further your dissertation. Then participation in seminars that our department organizes, as well as the internal PhD seminars, interestingly speaking, organized by PhD students themselves, very free space where to express your ideas, as well as, of course, in all dimensions in the department. International events, attendance of conferences, workshops, and summer schools. Teaching experience, which is not mandatory, but kind of recommended. I will say strongly recommended, above all, if you go on the academic job market, because it pays off having that box ticked, and also for your personal development. And job market preparation. Once again, you got to think from day one the fact that you're going to follow a path that has to lead you convincingly and successfully to the job market, and there's going to be some specific training during the fourth year. Okay? Now, we are searching for people who are ambitious. So we want you to ask ambitious research questions. That are research questions that, just to be clear, do not replicate what's known already. We have to extend the knowledge that we have already in order to push the frontier. So you got to be ambitious, you got to be pragmatical at the same time, you got to produce stuff that is useful for the society. We want you to be really, high level in your thing. Okay. The work can be theoretical or empirical or both. There's no preference from our side in this sense. Quality is the crucial element. Quality is the key. Okay. We search for policy implications. We want to have an impact on the society, and having the ability of influencing policymakers is one way to do so. And so that's actually something that we think is desirable when it comes to research. And we want you not to speculate on what you want to communicate to policymakers or to your peers in the academia. Your research and your conclusions have to be based on serious theoretical and empirical analysis. Okay? Believe in yourself, and this is true. I believe this is actually what I would kind of recommend to you to do, no matter what you're talking about, PhD course or your life more in general. Okay, believe in yourself. You're in a phase in your life where it's very important to aim high, to do things correctly, to do things ambitiously. If you want something, just go for it, and good things will happen. That's actually what we believe. Okay, and this is true also for our PhD program. When it comes to research, there's a variety of areas that you can experiment with. Here it's just a sample of areas within economics where we've had experience with our PhD students doing research, conducting research in applied economics, urban economics, monetary economics, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to read them all. You're going to receive the slides at the end of this presentation, so you can look at these topics more calmly. But the idea is that we cover a wide range of areas. And so in terms of supervision of PhD students, most likely we got you covered. That would be the idea, no matter what you take. In management, accounting and finance, or strategy, innovation, organization, there's a very long list of topics here you can pick from. They're all extremely intriguing, I would say, and important. A private sector standpoint, from an academic standpoint, from a policymaking standpoint. Once again, it makes much sense to read them all, but they're, once again, covering the most important areas in the profession. And so if you pick one of these elements over here, you'll find a good supervisor or a good advisor for mentoring you during the writing of the thesis. Okay. I talked about the visiting period. You're strongly encouraged to spend at least 3 months. I will say 1 year, to be honest, as visiting students at a top institution abroad. And when I say top institution, I really mean it. These are subsample of institutions where our PhD students spent time in the recent past. We really want you to go to the best possible institutions abroad in order to develop your research at the best. There's financial support for going abroad. You have an increase of the scholarship of 50%. And there's also an ongoing PhD visitor program where we consider applications for funding allocated on a competitive basis in order to strengthen your research dollars or euros in order to cover the expenses that you face when you go abroad. There's requirements, and it's in all the PhD programs over these 4 years. First year, I would like to remind you that it's the year featuring courses and exams. You have to pass all the exams. There's a minimum average grade, which we have, which is B. And at most, 1 retake is allowed, no more than that. Okay, so we want you to be very focused, concentrated, and do well right away. Okay? There's also a summer paper that you have to write. The summer paper is going to be assessed, and you have to have a positive evaluation of the paper for you to enter the dissertation phase. Second, third, and fourth year, there's going to be a policy evaluation of your activities by the board of school, implemented on a regular basis. The message here is that if you do things seriously, you're going to be fine. That would be the idea. But be aware of the fact that we want to monitor constantly the PhD student performance to be sure that they stay on the right track. It's more like a desire to have you eat your upper bound in terms of expression quality. Final requirement, you have to be admitted to the doctoral defense for eventually defending your dissertation and getting the degree. And once again, it's going to be an assessment done by the PhD board. Now, I guess what I've said so far is common to a variety of programs, to be honest. And so, although we believe that we got very high quality courses and we can send students to super prestigious institutions out there, but I guess there are some elements of commonality with other programs. So let me try to convince you of the fact that Padua is special. Okay, and I'll touch upon 4 points here: PhD guest courses and courses organized by our department, strength of our department, job market preparation, and quality of life in Padua. Okay? So courses that we organize. So within the PhD program, we offer courses that go over and above what we teach during the first year. Okay, these just a pair of examples of courses that we're going to offer very, very soon. Fabio Canova, a master of macroeconometrics, is going to offer this 10-hour course about tiering applications of state-of-the-art techniques when it comes to going to the macro data. While Simon Scheidegger is going to talk about deep learning for solving dynamic models, so how to use AI, as a matter of fact, to face the difficult issue of solving nonlinear macroeconomic frameworks to basically study what's going on out there. Think about all the nonlinearities, energy market in the first place, that we are kind of seeing at the moment out there. These courses are offered to every member of the department here. first off PhD students. And so PhD students can attend these courses in order to be taken to the frontier even more, if you want, with these distinguished lecturers. AI, clearly crucial now. We are organizing 2 events about AI, one in June, where an expert of AI, Antonio Mele from LSE, is coming and providing us with the state-of-the-art ways to use generative AI in research. And also, we want to have some discussion about how to use AI from an ethical standpoint. And so there's guidelines in academic research that are taught to us by one of our representatives in Padua. November, we have ethics in artificial intelligence. I think it's a relevant question to ask, how to use artificial intelligence ethically. And we'll have a local, an expert from Milan to talk about that. And then Ben Golub, one of the names worldwide in this space, is going to talk once again about how to exploit AI to research. Okay? And again, PhD students as well as faculties here are more than welcome to attend this course. In fact, PhD students are very encouraged to attend these courses. Okay. Strength of our department. Well, I don't like to boast, but there's some objective elements out there, and why not to mention them? So we rank among the best economics and management department in Italy according to country level assessment. In Europe, we have a good position when it comes to citations of our academic research during the last 10 years. And we are among the top universities in the world in business and economics or social sciences and management, according to very well-known institutions and rankings. Okay. Also, again, back to Italy, we've been identified as a Department of Excellence for the second time in a row, which means we got extra resources, part of which we are allocated to the PhD program for it to be to continuously develop. Okay. Having a good department is associated with having good publications, I would say, and this is a list of outlets that we've been able to hit recently in economics and management. You may or may not be familiar with the outlets. Trust me, these are the best outlets in the profession. Okay, and again, I see this as a testimony of the fact that we are able to conduct research at a high level. This comes with, or this is associated with good mentoring of PhD students, I have to say. So we try our best to be the best possible mentors, and I guess we have the quality for being credibly so, for being good mentors. Okay? Now, I talked about the job market. Let me spend a couple of words on it. So the job market is the place where PhD candidates and institutions meet for forming matches for like a PhD student, for instance, for finding a job, pragmatically speaking. There's different entities out there that search for the best possible talents in the profession, academic institutions, research institutions more in general, and private or public sector institutions. Okay? And the job market functions relatively regularly as follows. Universities and companies at some point search for each other. For economics, from November to February, you have this period where, as a PhD candidate, you check for the openings. You can send your applications. You're evaluated by the various institutions that you sent your application to. You might be called for an online interview and then for a fly out. So these institutions, if the online interview goes well, call you to visit them, to present your job market paper, to get yourself known to the local faculty or researchers, and then they decide if they want to offer you a job, and you decide if they're good enough for you or not. Okay? In accounting, there's a European job market, whose figures are written there. November and February, once again, is a hot period there. And there's also the US job market, which runs from January to March. Now, the job market experience is a very intense experience. It's not easy, given the number of talents out there, to find a job. At the same time, given that we know that, we want to train you at best in order to maximize your chances of landing a good job. Okay. So what we do is the following, among the many other things. So we want you to attend seminars about how to get ready for the job market. We also have a lot of material in this sense, which we distribute to our PhD students. We take care about your job market paper, which is like your business card when you go on the job market, your story, the story that you want to get yourself known. We care about details in your academic CV in order to maximize the visibility and quality of it, and the professional website. Okay, there's a public speaking training, so we want you to perform at best when it comes to communication, and so there are specialized workshops that we organize with experts in the field for you to acquire the right skills to perform at best. Mock interviews, we simulate situations in the job market in order for you not to get surprised when you go there. I mean, to have the right way to communicate what you got to communicate and to address the questions that potential employers go for. Okay, and mock job market talks. You're going to present your research, in particular your job market paper, many times. You're in our department, and you're going to be kind of, commented on when it comes to the job market paper repeatedly, I would say. It's an intense period. It's one of the preparation to the job market, but we do it because we want you to then feel as familiar as possible with the true job market when you go there. I have to anticipate or to mention, apologies, the fact that we belong to a network, the QED network of quality universities in Europe, and we've established with them a partnership so that these simulations are conducted also with the professors based in these institutions, so that when we simulate an interview, it's not just with us, it's also with them. You don't know them personally, most likely, and so it's like a more realistic simulation of the situation you'll face on the market. And we believe this has got some value added, actually. What are the placements you may think of when it comes to the real world after leaving our PhD program? Well, universities and business schools in Italy or abroad, research centers and institutes, international organizations and policy institutions. There's a variety of policy institutions that might be interested into a well-trained talent like you if you come to and attend our PhD program, you become part of our PhD program. Development banks, ministries, and also the private sector, of course. Everybody needs a good economist, I would say. And so economic consulting, strategy consulting, and a variety of dimensions which regard the credit and financial markets. Yeah. Recent placements, Jessica and Elisa are fantastic examples of quality placements of our PhD program. I let them elaborate on that later, but these are a list of institutions of all sorts that we've been able to place our one of our PhD student of ours to. See on the left-hand side, you see academic institutions, right-hand side, private sector institution. So we have universities, we have policy institutions, and we have private entities there. So we believe we've been very successful in placing our PhD students internationally. Padua. Where are we based and why do I want to talk about Padua? Well, because Padua is a very interesting university, is a very prestigious old university in Europe. It's multidisciplinary. We have a variety of schools here. So if you have ideas that go over the economics or the management territory, you can explore very much interactions with our colleagues based in Padua. It features 60,000 students. It's a very lively city also thanks to that. Heaps of PhD candidates, and the university presence is felt in the city. It's a very lively international environment, the one you find here in Padua. I think it's a beautiful city. To be honest, I'm not from here. I've always found it very, very nice as a place where to live. It is an helicopter view of part of the city. You see the oval, up there, which is Prato della Valle. It's a beautiful site of the city. And you also see La Basilica del Santo, which is one of the many churches you find here in Padua, as well as a variety of other cities in Italy, actually. And that's a beautiful stretch of part of the city, not the only one. To have a closer look at Prato della Valle, that's the one. But we also have Caffè Pedrocchi, which is an historical coffee place here in cafe here in Padua, which actually features a unique coffee, which is the coffee with me, the Caffè Pedrocchi in the Caffè Pedrocchi. And I feel extremely generous today. So for those of you who will make it in our program, you come with me at the Caffè Pedrocchi, and I'll invite you to taste it, on my accounts. That would be something that we offer as an extra, and no other PhD program offered that. I mean, just to show. Palazzo della Ragione, one of the other sites in the historical city center. We have a beautiful historical city center, UNESCO site. So something else that you can enjoy if you come here to Padua. Let me go back to more pragmatically our program though. The call for application is published here. Once again, we have a fantastic admin staff, and Izzy Vallese leading it is the best representative of it. And so Izzy is gonna very generously send you the slides with all this information later. There's an application deadline, which is Monday, May the 20th. Do not miss that. And please do not email your application. That's not the way you apply to our PhD program. There's an online submission form that you have to fill. Please follow the instructions there. If you have any doubts about the selection procedure, you can write to that email downstairs, phd_application@unip.it. If you want to have more information about the PhD program itself, you have another email account you can use, and we'll be more than happy to provide you with extra information about our program. Okay. Application. What should you expect out of our application? So what do you need to do for that? Well, have a CV ready, a research proposal, to make us understand what you're interested into, and make us also assess your ability to think as a researcher. Degree certificates and transcripts for providing us with in your CV. Proof of English competence, 2 letters of recommendation, and in the past we got troubles in terms of where they were uploaded. Make sure that you follow the directions of the site. Scientific publications, if you have any, more than natural if you don't at the stage of your career, but if you have, please upload them too. And a short summary of the master thesis, of your master thesis. Okay? Now, tests like the GRE are not mandatory, so we'll consider everybody here. But if you have a good performance there, please do let us know. I mean, please upload also this evidence, because of course, it's going to be considered. This is a selection process. We don't know you. We would like to know you at best. And so that's important part of the evidence there. Okay. If you are selected for the interview, well, the interview matters a lot. Okay. So as Amedeo Pugliese, my prestigious colleague here, suggested to me, he's sitting on the selection process a variety of times. There's 3 people that don't know you, and they want to know you in 15 minutes. Okay, so be serious with the preparation of the interview, and in particular, we are gonna propose 4 or 5 papers, scientific papers, for you to read. Then you pick one and you talk about that. Do not go for a quick read of that. It's serious. So try to study this paper, understand the research question, how it was tackled, the main findings, and be ready to address questions by the selection committee. The more convincing you are there, the better, really, because this says a lot about your ability as a researcher. So. Funding et al. The yearly scholarship is about 17,000 euros gross per year. PhD students have access to the departmental study room, and so a desk with a computer and IT support. There's reasonable accommodation solutions in Padua, managed by the university system. Also, the private market is very active, and there's a link there to help you out with like the collection of information on this dimension. Canteen is available during semesters. Okay? The Central University PhD office will help you sort information, issues about visas and immigration or healthcare and primary service. And you got details, more details about this dimension in the website indicated downstairs. Now, as I said at the beginning, we have the pleasure, and I'm very grateful to them, to have Jessica Piccolo and Elisa Sabadin here. Jessica decided to go for the economics track, Elisa for the management track. They well had I suspect a beautiful experience here in Padua, and then they managed to land fantastic jobs out there. So it's a pleasure for me to pass the ball to Jessica first and then Elisa for their testimonies. Thank you very much, Ray. Thank you.
Okay, let me share my slides. Okay, I hope you can see my slides. Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you. I am Jessica Piccolo, and I am a recent graduate from the PhD in economics at the Department of Economic and Management in Padua. Actually, I just graduated. I discussed my thesis just a bunch of weeks ago. And I'm very excited to be here with you today because not so many years ago, I was also in my room watching this same Zoom meeting and gathering information about pursuing a PhD in Padua. And if I think about myself, at that time where I was just a master student trying to figure out what to do in her career, I remember myself being very confused about what would be the next step for me. But there was one thing that I was sure about, which was that I really wanted a job that could give me a sense of scope, that a job that I would find really meaningful. And I wanted a job where I could keep learning about things I was genuinely interested about and where my ideas could have the freedom to develop and to expand and also to see a practical realization. And also a job that, as a first experience out of the master's, could help me build skills that I could use potentially in many different career paths. So that's why, after all, I decided to go for a PhD. And so a little bit about me, some details about me and who I became thanks to this path. I am an empirical macroeconomist, and my research sits at the intersection between macroeconomics and household finance. I study how people form expectations and beliefs about the macroeconomy and how these beliefs influence and shape households' financial decisions. This, for those who don't know, it is a very exciting new field in macroeconomics, which also extracts a lot of knowledge that we can have from the microdata. And I was able to complete three papers about these topics. One of it is under review in one of the most important journals in our professions. I also participate to more than 20 conferences all around the world, both in Europe and the US, as a speaker. And I spent 2 semesters out of my 4 years of PhD at UC Berkeley, who actually needs no introduction, but is the first university all around the world for economics, according to many, many rankings. There, I had the privilege to co-author one of my papers with a professor who is widely considered one of the thought leaders in our field. And I am telling this not to brag about my results, but just because all of this accomplishment would have seemed really crazy from that master student that was me some years ago listening to this presentation, but actually with some effort and the help of the Department of Economic and Management in Padua, I was able to reach all these very exciting results that now open me a lot of opportunities for my future. If I have to describe my journey as a PhD in a nutshell, it has been a challenge to find the right questions, so questions that matter not just for me personally, but for the academic environment and for the world in general. And then using all of my creativity and the skills that I was also building in the meantime to find the right answers. And of course, this has been very challenging, but also I would say an extraordinary journey that was full of a lot of learning and also a lot of joy. In the day by day, this meant using my creativity to coming up with ideas and solutions for the research questions that I was constantly faced with, become a confident advocate of my ideas since I have to discuss them with a lot of peers in the fields, and also building resilience because research is a study of the unknown. So many things not go unplanned, but you also have to start again and to come up with new solutions and new ideas. All of this comes with learning a lot of skills that spans from coding to modeling to public speaking, networking, looking for funding, and public outreach. These were skills that open you a lot of opportunities in the academic job market, and not just for the academic job market in general, for the labor market. And so the PhD is a very interesting journey. And what is the objective of this journey? What is the final destination? The final destination is finding a job after it. And indeed, all the preparation that Efren was describing before about the academic job market helped me to arrive very prepared to this very big challenge of competing with candidates all around the world for positions in academia and institutions. At the end of the job market, I was able to reach two important objectives. First of all, I am currently in Oslo, spending some months as a researcher in Norges Bank, which is the central bank of Norway. And in September, I will join the University of Bonn as a postdoc. The University of Bonn is one of the most innovative and strong departments for empirical macro and also theoretical macro in Europe. And so how this was all possible is going through this journey of the PhD that not always brought me to find these jobs after it, but also to work day by day on questions that felt like mine, having people to constantly engage seriously with my ideas. And I truly felt like that my brain and my knowledge was expanding a lot during these years, thanks to all the things that I learned, both from the courses and the practical work I was doing as a researcher in Padua. Last but not least, during this time, I was able to build friendships with my peers during my PhD that are really your brothers in arms during this period, during this year, very important years of your life that I'm sure will go well beyond the PhD itself. But why Padova and why this department in particular was important for me to reach all these objectives? What did it give me that no other departments could have given me? I think that it was very important for me to have to grow up in a department where there is this close interaction between macroeconomics and microeconomics. As I said, my research is a little bit interdisciplinary between these two words, and it was very important to me to have to find space to explore my ideas from these very different angles. This was possible thanks to the courses during the PhD, which allowed me to build theoretical and practical skills from both these worlds, but also discussing my research with professors that come from different points of view. Another thing that was pivotal for me was having supervisors who really invested in me, not only as a researcher, but first of all, as a person. For those of you who will carry on a PhD in next years, you will understand that supervisors are one of the most important ingredients for your success of a PhD. And in Padova, I really found some dedicated supervisors that really invested a lot of time, effort, and care in helping me explore my ideas. This department also opened you a lot of opportunities for networking. Efren was citing the seminars that are take place every week And you can actually, and you're encouraged to interact with one-on-one meetings, going to lunch or to dinner with the speakers. And this allows you to build your small network as a very young researcher and to have feedback from people from many international departments. And also, the opportunity to go abroad and to spend some time of your PhD as a visiting researcher in another department was what allowed me to really have a different perspective on how it means to be a researcher in a different context and being exposed to one of the most important and famous departments that there are in the world. You in this program really feel that you are considered a researcher, a peer, and a colleague from day one. And the whole department cares a lot about your ideas. This was very important for me to build my voice as a young researcher in this very exciting field, which is economics. So this is my testimony. I thank you for listening. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn if you have more questions or you want to hear my insights or to chat a little bit more. And feel free to visit my website if you want to learn more about my research. I leave the floor to Elisa, and I hope to see many of you becoming fellow PhD alumni from Padua in the next following years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Fantastic presentation. I guess it's now time to pass the ball to Elisa.
Okay, I think you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Let me just move the comments here. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elisa, and I did my PhD here since I did from 2020 until 2024. I am currently, let's say that my current research lies at the intersection of IB, so international business and innovation, with a drop of economic geography that I am still using part of my PhD thesis. I am currently working at Lewis Business School in Rome, and I'm working on scandals and specifically on the Volkswagen scandal, and on the divestments of US multinationals in Europe and their effect on innovation. So that's why I said that I work on both IB and innovation. I did my bachelor in Bologna and at University of Bologna, and it is where I had the epiphany. After a couple of weeks starting my bachelor, I said, okay, I want to do this in my life. So actually, I had clear ideas in my mind. However, after the master's degree, I said, okay, I cannot do this. Probably I'm not very good at doing research. I had a lot of doubts. So I decided to start working. So I worked as a business developer in a firm in Italy for a couple of years. But actually, the dream was still there. So I decided to send my application only at the University of Padua, I have to say. I am not a risk-averse person, so I decided to go all in for the PhD here, and I started the PhD in 2020. And during a dinner that was organized by one of the management professors here at the department, I met the broker person that allowed me to start the postdoc at Lewis. So it was a professor from another university that was there at this dinner, and we had a chat together, and he said, okay, I have a person that I know, and she's opening this place. Would you like to try? So that's why I started the postdoc. Actually, I started the postdoc while I was still a PhD student, because I started the postdoc in September and I graduated in December 2024, and I'm still there until next year. The contract is still there. The PhD in numbers. So I love running. And I also love running when I'm working. So I tried to gain the best while I was doing my PhD here. So during the PhD, I had the possibility to, let's say, start the draft for 10 journal articles that are, some of them are already published, and two of them, one, it is still the chapter of my thesis, is I mean, we got the review and then we had submitted, we are at the second round of the revision. So I did, let's see, I think a good job while I was here. I also managed to win an Italian award, that is the Bernardo Nobile Award, for the best Italian PhD thesis. I think it was last year, yes. And also, one chapter of the thesis was awarded the top 10% at the Academy of Management. That is a very important conference, usually in the US, but also sometimes they come to Europe for the innovation division. That is the technology, the innovation division of the Academy of Management. Rejections, a lot. I cannot tell, I mean, I can count how many papers I have published, but I cannot count the rejections. I received one yesterday, well, actually it was tonight, last night, from a conference. I sent 2 papers at the DSMS conference that will be in Europe this year. One was accepted, the other one was rejected, but it is fine. So other numbers, I participated in some conferences all around the world. One of the most famous is the Academy of Management, but also R&D Management, Druid, that is often in Copenhagen, but sometimes also in other parts of Europe. EURAM, that is the European, let's say the European Academy of Management, and it always plays in Europe. And also I went to Japan, I did a lot of things. I did my visiting period at CBS, Copenhagen Business School, at the Department of Strategy and Innovation. I think it is quite famous institution in Europe, but also worldwide. And I'm still working with a professor, not actually the professor I did my visiting with, but another professor that I met during my visiting period. And I presented the paper, and she said, okay, the paper on scandals. And she said, okay, I like the topic. I'm also working on something similar. Can we work together? And this was something, you know, very, very, let's say, honoring, because it never happened in my life that a professor come to you and say, hey, would you like to work with me? So that was only, I think it was something super nice. However, the PhD was not only made of numbers and conferences, but also of people. As Jessica said before, probably one of the biggest choices you have to take is the choice of your supervisor. So choose someone that you would go out for dinner with. You are not, I mean, you're going to work with your supervisor and co-supervisor or many supervisors for a lot of time. So choose someone that a person that you could learn from and work with for a long period of time. And I have to say that the choice was made, I mean, ex post, I can say that the choice was made correctly. But also a lot of colleagues and international peers. One of my closest friends, I met him at CBS. He's Italian, doing the PhD in Leuven, but he was also doing the visiting period at CBS. So we had a lot of times to spend together, and also we other friends. So not only colleagues, but also friends. And this is very important because it allows you to, let's say, experience and analyze and see different perspectives that goes beyond your, let's say, your little environment, and also build your own network. So it is very important to, I mean, it is true that during the first year you have to be focused on the exams. However, it is not only exams. So start to talk with people, start talking with your peers, start doing like also informal collaborations. I mean, not everything has to be has to have as a final aim the publication, okay? Because publications will come later. But start also working, participate to the seminars that are very important, but also people do not realize the importance. Seminars, conferences, just informal talks, participate to projects. For example, during the PhD, I was part of the project that was funded by the department. So the department gave us money to do so. And actually the publication that comes from that project was published at the Research Policy. That is, I mean, one of the nice journals of the list that the professor showed you before. So my suggestion is, yes, do study for the exam, but Padua will give you the possibility to build your own network that goes also beyond the work. So this is my final suggestion. What I think that my PhD at this department made possible. First, if you ask me, would you retake the entire 4 years as you did? Always. This is my reply. With no regrets at all. Consider that, I mean, I was in a very international environment because I'm from Padua actually, but I studied at the University of Bologna, then I did my master in London, but I also have an executive master with the US Italian Foundation. So I mean, I was not part of the UniPD environment, but I decided to go back, that it was time to go back and build something where I was born. So again, yes, I will retake everything as I did. What it made possible, as I said, freedom to explore and refine my own research ideas. So as Jessica said before, I was treated as a colleague, not just a student. I really had tons of opportunities, really, more than what I could expect, I have to be honest. The thing is that you know, I'm not here to sell you the perfect recipe because you need tons of ingredients. You need good supervisors. You need lucky factors. You need talent. You need also effort. But I need to say that there are a lot of opportunities. So you need to be able to take them. I was involved in a lot of research projects and discussions. And also I had the supervisors that encouraged me to present at international conferences. Just to tell you, the first conferences I took during my PhD was the Academy of Management in Seattle. So, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities. Last but not least, Padua is a very vibrant international city, I would say. Historic academic environment, but not historic in the bad sense of historic, but in the sense that it has a history, path dependency, you know. But professors are really, really nice. And again, opportunities, there are tons of opportunities. And I'm finished.
Lisa, thank you very much for your fantastic presentation. Jessica and Lisa, you're just great. We knew it already, but today's presentations confirm what we knew already, which is your bright talents, and we are so lucky to have you here, really. So let me sort of, I guess, complete or sort of close this interaction with our prospective PhD candidates by saying that we thank you very much for spending time with us and for listening to us. And we are waiting for your applications if you feel like it's a very important decision that you have to take, that are kind of, you know, deciding where to go studying, if to go studying at a PhD level. We are here for you. Hopefully we convince you of the fact that this is a place where you can express your talent and eat your upper bound in terms of quality. I think it's a good moment now to ask if there's any questions to our attendees.
To break the ice, is there somebody who has questions for Elisa and I? Maybe we could start from this and then we leave the floor to the more like broader
Absolutely.
questions
I
about
have seen
the
that, yes, there were some
Absolutely.
questions before. I don't know if probably.
So there was a guy, it was Saif, who wanted to ask a question, and I kind of, suggested to him to wait for a second, and this will be the moment to ask a question, but I'm not quite sure he re-entered. I see one hand like raised by Mohammed. I don't know if Mohammed can go ahead with your question.
Hello, Mister. Can I hear you?
Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for this presentation. I'm Muhammad Hafiz Kalaji, and I have a question, please. I want to ask you, I'm very interested in energy markets and econometrics. Does the department have faculty members working on energy transition or research economics? And is the program open to combining energy research with complex data modeling?
So yes, we do have researchers, colleagues actually working on energy market and environmental economics more in general. You can think of it as, well, from different angles, I suspect, oil shocks, energy shocks, the ins and outs of the energy market in itself. Something I would like to raise to your attention is that here in Padua, there's many schools. There's also a very, very dynamic department of statistics, where many people are working on energy with time series approach. And so I guess it depends on how you would like to tackle the energy market questions, if you want. But yes, we do cover the area, and also we do interact with this Department of Statistics, where they know a lot about the energy market as well.
Actually, it's great because my background in bachelor's was statistics,
Yeah.
and in master it was circular economy management. So thank you so much for clarification. And I want to ask you, please, another question. Beside the grades and test scores, what are the most important qualities you look for in a candidate? What makes an application truly stand out, for 4 years program?
It's a question, actually. I think it's a combination of elements. I guess we are searching for talents who are research oriented, and so the way in which you think about a research question is important. So I go back to what I said before in terms of the interview, for instance. So the fact that you're going to be asked to talk about a research paper, you're going to be going to get questions about the research paper. So we want you to talk as a scientist, as a researcher about it. So in order to assess, to understand how you think about it. That would be the first element, I would say. Then, of course, as usual, CV is important. So your academic record in terms of grades, in terms of institutions where you studied. It's difficult to make a selection out of many candidates. We kind of expect hundreds of applications here, to be honest. So going to something which objectively sort of enables us to perform a comparison across the board, the GRE or GMAT might be useful here. But again, I think the research project, as well as the summary of the master thesis and the ability of talking about the object you develop with the master thesis, as a researcher will do, I think they are very, very important.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank you very much. I see Enzo Almeida.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Very nice, and to get to know Jessica's and Elisa's path during the PhD. So I just wanted to confirm in the interview section. So we will not discuss the research project that we submit for the first part of the process, right? So we'll discuss a different work from someone else and not our research project that we submit. Is that right?
Well, so thanks for the question. No, I think the interview actually, sure. The interview is part of the process where we might want to ask questions across the board, to be honest. And so, no, I mean, if you propose a research project, we're going to read it, of course. You have to propose a research project, so we're going to read it. And then we might ask questions about that as well. Now, I mean, it's just 15 minutes, expect 15 minutes, and we are flexible in that sense, just to be sure. But expect 15 minutes. And so there's so much you can cover, right, within 15 minutes. So we might insist a little bit on the paper and or shift to the research project or start with the research project. It's also a little bit endogenous, right? If we see that there's a good flow of conversation over the paper, we might not kind of, go to the research project. Perhaps we start from there, so we don't go to the paper. Typically, we go to the paper just to be sure, okay? So you have to be ready there. But say, we would expect you to be super prepared about the research project you wrote down. And so, yes, we're going to have questions about the project as well. Expect that at least.
Okay, thank you.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I see in the chat there was some indications of questions, but I guess we covered them already.
Sorry, I connected with my phone and I couldn't raise my hand. I also had a question.
No worries.
Thank you for the presentation. In the areas of the research, the slide that you shared, I couldn't see any topics related to marketing, and my research proposal is about social media. Is there a topic about marketing in management, or that is not covered?
There is, so apologies for that. It's a big miss. My bad, my mistake. No, we do cover marketing.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember I saw it somewhere, but then I got confused.
And so social media sounds pretty intriguing to economists too. So I guess you might, if you present something like your research here in the department, you get questions from two angles, I guess, the marketing or management angle and the economist angle.
Okay.
Very sure about that. Okay.
Clear.
Can I give a suggestion to the candidates? If you are unsure about which are the topics that are most developed here in the University of Padua, I suggest you to look at the profiles of the professors in the department and check out their website. There you find all their research and you will be much more able to understand which are the areas that they are working on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I was sure that I saw marketing and saw marketing professor, but then I didn't see it in the slides and I got confused. Maybe there was something else. Yeah, but thank you for the tip.
I can confirm there are.
Thank you for the question. So there's a question via chat. I'm going to read it. So are there specific criteria for the fully funded positions regarding international applicants? Is there a preference for candidates who've already secured external research grants? I will say no in principle, in the sense that we want to assess talent and ability and, the way in which you think as economists and scientists. So merit is actually the key word here, I would say. So of course, I mean, if you secured a prestigious grant offered by a well-known research institute or government, that's part of the CV, and CV is also part of the assessment of the candidates. And so I can't say that it's going to have a zero weight there. But so merit is clearly our polar star when we assess candidates. Okay. So I have raised hand. Amaraki and Samson Church. I'm reading. Perhaps there's a problem there. Well, the microphone is off for Amaraki or Amachi and Samson Church. So,
Professor, sorry,
yes.
I can't raise my hand for some reason, and I ask you if I can ask questions in the chat.
Sure.
So I think you missed it. If I can after Amaraki, I would be very appreciative.
Just go ahead. Just ask a question.
Okay, I have 4 questions. One is in terms of the research proposal that we have to upload for the application. Later, if we get accepted, are we obligated to pursue that research proposal, or can we have talk with the supervisors about our actual paper?
You can switch to another area, so or to a different research question within the same area. So that's a way we have to assess your ability to think of as a researcher. There's no commitment. There's no commitment whatsoever. The only commitment this year, I have to say, is about the area-specific scholarship that we have. There's one which is related to social security, basically, and welfare analysis based on overlapping generation models, as a matter of fact. So it's a theoretical and empirical area there, or it's an area where you're going to be asked to investigate maybe debt sustainability at the end of the day with theoretical and empirical models. That's the one sponsored by one colleague here, Alessia Russo, who got a very prestigious scholarship, ERC Consolidator grant. And so there, yes, you're committed to that. But no, in general, no. Generally, the answer is no. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I worked on my master's thesis in the University of Padua about time series forecasting in sales. And I want to know if there is because I had a hard time finding a professor who does forecasting with machine learning in our department. I want to know if there's opportunity to work with the computer science or data science department in the PhD program.
Absolutely. To some extent, if I were you, would kind of want to do that. And so, yes, once again, there's, as you know, you might know, art science departments here in Padua, and you can absolutely, you're invited to interact with them in order to produce the best possible paper. There's also a quantistic computer site now. We are kind of currently exploring the possibility of working with it as economists, because at the moment it's dedicated to our scientists. But in the near future, we are told that we'll be able to use that resource as well. Because I suspect that you need computational power there for doing what you would like to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, the answer is yes, you're invited to do so.
Yeah, thank you. And last two questions are kind of administrative, but is there a minimum GPA for the acceptance? Minimum GPA of master or bachelor?
I will say no. I mean, you seem to be very, as I'm sure the other talents in the room, very knowledgeable about distributions, I suspect. And so as you teach me, there's a distribution, empirical distribution, which we don't know yet. That's the one characterized by the applicants to this position. And so, of course, all else being equal, we'll probably have a preference for higher GPAs than lower GPAs, but then
Yeah, of course.
the comparison has to be weighted. But no, there's no formal minimum. So, yeah.
Okay, and can potentially the GRE score, a very high GRE score, cover for a lower kind of GPA?
Well, I would say yes, and the reason is that in terms of reading percentiles of the GRE, I know what I'm doing when it comes to homogeneity of evaluation across applicants. While for the GPA, of course, we always have to weight and assess, and it's harder, as a comparison. But so absolutely, if you have a good GRE, that's a good card to play. Okay. So yesterday we had this presentation in presence, and there was a question like, should I did my GRE, I didn't do very well, should I send it to you or not? Given it's not mandatory, think of this as being like a degree of freedom, I would say. So play strategically, if I may. Of course, I mean, this side of the conversation, we would like to know you at best, and so that would be a valuable information. If I were you, I would use this as a strategic card. If you have a good performance there, let us know. If you don't have a good performance, you know what? I'm sure that you're a bright person, a bright talent. That day you woke up in the morning, you went there, you were not particularly in shape. That happens. Just don't show it to us. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, with the GRE exam, it happens.
Okay.
Sir, can I ask one question?
And sorry, I'm not finished.
There's a last question.
It's the last question. The number of acceptance, you said it's 6, and 2 of them are obligated by some programs. The other 4 are 2 for economics and 2 for management, or 4 for economics and 4 for management.
Okay, so first, good question. Thank you very much. First, a clarification. So there's actually unconditionally, so not conditional on any research team. There's this year basically 3 for economics and 2 for management, plus one within the economics realm, which is the one about social security I was mentioning before. Okay, it's not written in stone in the sense that it depends on the distribution of talents within the set of applicants. Okay, but it will tend to be this year, 3 in economics and 2 in management. Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
But the other thing I wanted to say is that so one which is unconditional, so not conditional on a team, may be the one that is sponsored by the Galilean School in the sense that they consider applicants which within social sciences. So they may or may not decide that you are the one in the sense that they got also political scientists, for instance, and so they decide. But still, that's unconditional. Okay, so it's not conditional. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yeah, same to you.
Can I ask one question, sir?
I guess if you go first, then I.
Okay, so I'm saying Saif here. I'll say Saif and then
Yes, sir. Safe.
Saif, yeah.
Yes, sir. I am a final year student, final year MBA student. I have no research experience like conference paper and research paper publication. And I am final year student. Can I apply for a PhD program? My degree is completed in June 2026. So I am eligible for PhD program.
In June 2025, you said? My answer is yes, as far as I understood the question. Suppose I understood the question. Yes, the answer is yes. For questions like this one, I would kind of suggest to write to the email I indicated before. You're going to receive the slides at the end of this conversation, so you'll have this information. But these are technical questions, and we want to see, the details. If you want, if you apply, send the question via mail with your CV, that's better. So we kind of have a concrete evidence of what you're saying. But yeah, so if you graduated in 2025, yes, you're eligible for applying. Yes.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hello, Professor. Thank you for your nice feedbacks and answering the questions. My question will be on research proposal, actually. So, do we have to follow any particular format to shape our research proposal? Does UniPD provides any particular format? And then also another question will be if Jessica and Elise can provide some feedback on that, how we should develop our research proposal, if they can provide us some tips.
So I'll let Jessica and Elisa go first, and then
I think Jessica is not here anymore.
Okay, so Elisa, it's up to you.
I have to be honest, I think that the way they developed when I entered is a little bit different. I would develop a research project as a research project should be developed. So nothing special. I mean, just like introduction, abstract introduction, deliverables. So you have 4 years, actually 3 years of research. But it is a 4-year programs, so the timeline of the project, how you would develop, and so on. This is my suggestion. Another suggestion would be analyze properly the research questions. Be sure that what you are proposing is something really new, not something that has been already seen. Another thing, and probably Professor Pugliese, I don't know if he's here, but I remember from his course, and he said, if there is a gap in the literature, is not a good motivation to do this research. Sometimes a gap in the literature means that the topic is not interested at all. This is something that he said. So do not only say, hey, there is a gap in the literature, but motivate everything, okay? Also the methodology, just look for top journal papers that used the same methodology, also on different topics, for example. Another important thing that is also always, let's say, not considered is typos and grammars. Okay, so you are sending a research project and it is for your future, so you have to pay attention on what you are writing. So this is something very important. You have to show that you are committed. Also, people do not know you, but you have to show that you are committed writing a research project. I also have to be honest, I was 10th after the research project. And then I managed to enter after the interviews. So the interviews is quite important. So do not focus only on the research project, but focus also on the interview. This is my suggestion. Then I don't know if they have a format actually, but I would write it as a normal research project. So introduction, the theory, methodology, timeline, expected results, if you need any instrument, if you're going to perform some interviews, data, the data you need, these kind of things.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
I totally agree. Just to be super sure, what I achieved out of a research project is a well-defined and motivated question. So don't tend to explain the word as it works. Try to focus on something which is well defined and tell me why it is important. Okay, because well-defined is a necessary but not sufficient condition in the sense that, as Elisa was saying, perhaps there's a reason why nobody is scared about the fragment of the story. Perhaps it's not important at all. If it is important, let me know why it is in your opinion, and then I will tackle these research questions. So what are the data you use, the theoretical models you kind of think of constructing, and why, and then kind of try to anticipate the following steps. And that's actually the sequence of events that within a project what we would expect. So research question first, definition and motivation, and then you go from there. That will be the idea. Okay.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. May
Sure.
I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Rabeb, and I hold a master's degree in applied economics from Morocco. And I'm currently resident in Italy. I would like to ask whether my degree is recognized for PhD admission, and if there are any specific requirements for applicants with non-EU degree.
So I'm getting a few questions which are correlated in terms of eligibility. Two things here. First, I think the best possible thing I can do is to refer you to the application website where you can find the requirements actually. And there, most likely, if you meet the requirements, you can apply, otherwise you cannot. That's basically the idea. So, technically you can, but then your application is not going to be considered. I admit that there might be gray areas, and in all the applications I'm aware of for all the positions out there, okay? So in this sense, the best you can do is to write us an email exploiting or focusing on the email account I mentioned before with your case and your CV in particular. So provide us with all the information we need to have for assessing your case, okay? Writing is better because of the fact that you got something written as a reply, which is there for you as a reference. Okay. So I don't want to deflect the question, but each one of the proponents of this type of questions has got his own specific case. My strong recommendation would be write an email to us, provide us with the right information, and we'll let you know as soon as possible. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your
you.
time.
Thank you. I'm reading here in the chat a question about letters of recommendation. Does the committee prefer letters that focus on general academic character or some specific talents like econometric research capabilities, potential for publication? We would like to know you better. Say that extreme cases, a letter that tells me that you are a fantastic economist in general, or a letter that tells me that you're a master in mastering a technique, in dealing with that technique. Probably I prefer the second one because the first one doesn't really tell me much about you. The second one tells me that you are X or Y or Z, so you're a specific type. And if you're truly an expert in a field, that's very much appreciated. So that's actually what I would say about letters of recommendation. I don't know if there's any other question that the audience wants to pose or in the chat, which I'm not sure because I think they are becoming a little bit correlated, which is fine. Anybody wants to ask any other questions? Because if not, I guess we can close it here. But before that, please enable me to thank you once again very, very much for your attention and participation. You receive, as I said already, the information about this conversation via email very soon. And then if you have questions, as I said, please write us, okay? I'm seeing, I guess, the last, oh yeah, so easy, very, very efficiently also placed some extra information on the chat. So I leave it open for a second for you to download it. And then I guess we can close it here, okay? So thank you very much once again to everybody. And of course to Jessica and Elisa in particular, I would say, for their contribution, fantastic contribution to our interaction. And hopefully we'll read your applications very soon. Ciao.